Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
And a very warm welcome this Monday evening to SimSpeed TV once again, and it's the return of Ozicar Tin Top Cup, the fourth round of this 10th season of the championship, continuing our Spanish adventure, and our final race, mind you, in the country of Spain to be precise, takes us to the Circuit of Barcelona, Catalonia this evening, and we are on the historic configuration, just to add a bit of sweeping curves and higher speeds to the race here tonight. Daniel Hammond on the microphone here with you tonight. I'll be joining David Haynes as our Ozicar commentary regular. Thank you very much for being here once again, David. And yeah, historic configuration of Barcelona. Looks like it should hopefully be a good track to race around tonight.
Yeah, everyone loves the historic version, the Grand Prix configuration that lasted about a decade. No one liked that chicane. Even Formula One themselves have gone back to the high speed, no chicane configuration. So Monaco's there near Nice if you want lots of fiddly chicanes. Barcelona is down here on the northern Spanish coast of the Mediterranean, just inland from the Mediterranean. And here's the track. Long front straight, heaps of medium speed corners, but the best overtaking opportunity is at turn 1, and perhaps sometimes at turn 4 as well. You sometimes see a crossover between 1, 2, 3, and then into that braking zone at 4. Opened in 1991, 4.7 kilometers, 14 turns clockwise, because it is flat out through 13 and 14 onto the front straight to give us some very high average speeds around here. So some very high average cornering speeds for these GT4 cars.
Yes, indeed. That's what we're expecting to see in these cars tonight. And, well, hopefully they'll be able to deliver what we're looking forward to seeing on track. Speaking of which, real quick, before we get to the grid, because they are about to start gridding up, here's what we're expecting tonight in terms of our racing format. They've had 10 minutes to get one lap in as standard format for this season, David, but then 3 7-lap sprints coming our way this evening. As a result, there'll be no pit stops required at all, and keep our eyes out for an inversion of the top 6 from the race run results to mix things up perhaps in that second race of 3.
Every model of GT4 car available on offer. The Aston Martin Vantage, 2 generations of BMW M4, regular nose and big nose, Mercedes AMG, McLaren, Porsche Cayman as well to go with it. Forming up for the first of 3 frantic sprint races here, and this is the grid. Adrian Duke on pole from Tim Harris, the older spec BMW in second. And that's very interesting to see. 1.2 second margin there. The McLaren seems to fire up its tyres quickly. Could be good for these sprint races. Jamie Stovall in third with Brodie Shepherd in fourth. Benjamin Wheeler in fifth with Daniel Stevens sixth on the grid. Michael Cullen seventh. Dan Bartush in eighth. So a couple of McLarens. It's been a popular car. Trevor Hearns in ninth with Nathan Verney in 10th. Last 2 drivers that set qualifying times were Elliot D and Ira Felberg. Brent Wassel and John Snell did not. The first of 3 races, they are rolling. I wonder if we can get championship points super quickly.
Unfortunately, David, that was the one thing I've missed the mark on getting ready for tonight. Jumping in at late notice, fortunately, one Jay Kennedy, our regular Aussie car producer, unable to be with us tonight. On short notice too, just to make things a little more, well, I wouldn't say exciting, because that certainly wasn't quite the case from my perspective, getting things all set up. So if I can get a breather, we'll try and get them for the warm-up in between races 2 and 3. I'll give you that for compromise.
7 laps. We're ready to go for the first of 3 races for Ozicar Tin Top Cup. The pace car is in. Adrian Duke is on the pole position and they are clustered behind him. Tim Harris is in his left rear wheel waiting on the green flag, which they get right now, and they spray out in that third row there as well. 3 wide, 4 wide, massive speed heading down towards turn 1. Cold tyres for all these GT4s, but the track temperature is 42 Celsius. It's toasty on the racetrack. Jamie Stovall getting a good jump. Looks like Michael Cullen getting a good jump. And Benjamin Wheeler getting absolutely smothered in the midfield there. They passed him one side, they passed him the other. Harris versus Stovall side by side through turn 3 as Adrian Duke leads us towards the braking zone at turn 4. I think Stovall's just come across and boxed in Tim Harris.
Yeah, it would appear to be the case. Up to second, though, it's under the Repsol Bridge for the first time here. You can see the field nice and well packed together, for now at least, as they make their way around the sweeping corners. You can try and get a rhythm. See, certainly not afraid to push the boundaries for some of these drivers here. The McLarens in particular, it seems, as they work their way down to turn 6 for the first time. One of our slower corners on this circuit. It might actually be the slowest day being the historic configuration here tonight, I think.
Yeah, this chicane's a little slow as well. Even the historic version at the end of the back straight is a little slow. They're coming up towards the highest point of the racetrack right now and then heading downhill. This is what I consider to be the back straight. Not especially long, but you're definitely seeing some drivers moving around, thinking they might be able to get to the inside here and make some moves. Tim Harris and that BMW qualified really well. It's the older spec BMW M4 GT4, but Jamie Stovall pinched him off the race start and now on board Brodie Shepherd in 4th. These are the first 1 or 2 laps for these McLarens. They seem to be the GT4 car to have, but then longer runs seem to wear their tyres. So I think this format today definitely favours the McLarens pretty well. Oh, I think it's going to be more problems for Ben Wheeler. He's got a bad curb exit off the final corner, and that's this second group of GT4s heading down the front straight for just the second time since we got the green flag. Dan Bartusz ahead of him for the moment. Wheeler trying to strike back side by side through turn 1. The McLarens go, but not side by side through turn 2 because Bartusz just managed to hold him off. So Wheeler runs wide and into the gravel.
Pushing as hard as he can, it seems. In fact, let's throw up our manufacturing position. He definitely picked it up there on the grid, of course, David, that this McLaren's strong, it seems, tonight, and here you can see that first.
On Snell.
Oh, the back of the field for Snell. Oh dear, indeed.
So John Snell's had a problem through turn 3. He's found the inside wall and he's sort of Fernando Alonso'd it in testing potentially there. Lost the front bumper, gone heavy into the wall, and he runs last at the moment with a bit of damage as well.
Pick up a full replay of that one. Folks, here in a second. Try and piece together what's here. That's front of it. A fair bit sore now.
I don't think his suspension was quite right either. Everyone else rolling on. Adrian Duke out to a 1.3 second race lead, but the rest of the field super tightly packed. These high average speeds here at Barcelona. Stovall still ahead of Harris and Shepherd, and then Trevor Hearn ahead of Michael Cullen. Cullen got a really good race start off the green flag as we look at what happened to John Snell through turn 3. Gets checked up behind. Oh, it's just the rear tyres let go in the long corner.
Yeah, a little bit cold perhaps at the rear still, unfortunately, for John Snell. And ends up losing the front bumper as a result.
Fastest lap of the race goes to Adrian Duke as they begin to pick up speed. GT4 cars do famously start with pretty cold tyres before they warm them up. Michael Cullen looking like he might lose another spot. Daniel Stevens in the Mercedes got down the inside of turn 1. Around the outside of turn 2 didn't benefit him, but now he might get down the inside of turn 3 again. Drivers swarming everywhere in this pack. It's Mercedes, McLaren, 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 looking for 3 lanes, heading down towards turn 4. Wheeler's trying to strike back, and then down the inside of Cullen, Dan Bartusz has given him a big hit check, and Daniel Stevens goes through the lot of them to pick up some spots.
That worked out pretty well for Dan Stevens as they continue to scrap here. Bartosz and Wheeler all over each other, it seems. They try and find a bit of a track position, potentially at a cost of staying in the group that they were in. As that's now fanned them out a little bit and lost touch a bit with Stevens, not too much. Trevor Hearn's also there, still in shot, but it really is now a case of, well, they can maybe battle here for 5th on backwards, but I don't think they'll be chasing down anyone in that top 4, because the gap, even though it's only, just shy of 4 seconds, looks quite significant there. Speaking of that top 4, they are scrapping. Tim Harris and Brody Shepherd on 3rd and 4th going out of here, David.
So super equal times last lap around, within 1.5 tenths of each other. Jamie Stovall, Tim Harris and Brody Shepherd. So it's pretty even for the moment. Got that yellow curb. Some drivers get their outside tyres on the far side of it. See Brody Shepherd staying inside of it. But off the final corner, it gets a pretty good run at Tim Harris. You can see him just getting a little closer towards the rear wing from this rear-facing camera. Across the start-finish line, Jamie Stovall's found a little bit more speed. Tim Harris and Brody Shepherd losing a couple of tenths on the lap that they've just completed. Shepherd not really getting to the apex of 1 or 2. This seems like the part where this BMW is just a tiny bit stronger.
And definitely, as you see here, actually not too far away from Stovall. I really sort of felt like for a moment it was more a case of they were sort of fighting to 2 only, but I'd say it's definitely now top 2nd through 4th trying to all sort of form up together. Yeah, no pressure from behind. The gap now over 3 seconds. For a moment they're nearly 3.5, but it settles back down a bit between Shepherd and Hearn. So we're now in the second half of this first race already. Looks like that. But then again, at the same time, 7 laps. Goes by fairly quickly, even in these cars.
Got to keep an eye on who's inside of the top 6 as well. Trevor Hearn's in 5th. Daniel Stevens got up into 6th. This Mercedes moving forwards. Dan Bartosz has looked pretty quick as well, though, in 7th. As they've moved past Michael Cullen and moved past Ben Wheeler. So I think if you can get yourself into that top 6, that's what you want to do. If you're Dan Stevens, you want to stay in 6th or move up to 5th. But Dan Bartosz will be incredibly incentivized to try to get into that top 6, as we have the invert 6 positions from race 1's results onto race 2's grid, and it's a great battle over these spots just around the top 6.
Looking behind Dan Stevens, forwards from him. You can probably look back actually to Nathan Verney. I should probably note there in the lone, there's 2 Porsche games. The lone car is John Snell's doing it solo in the Aston Martin Vantage. Both again sharing a similar engine to this Mercedes AMG GT4. Does mean it's not completely outgunned around this place. Interesting to see there through turns 2 and 3. Bart's which will be very strong compared to Dan Stevens here at the moment, David. And they're going to have to find something soon. Just less than 3 laps to go now.
Yeah. Dan Stevens has got his brake pressure percentage as those red bars alongside his dash. So you saw he actually had to brake between turns 2 and 3 to make the car rotate. Seemed like something that some of the other cars around him, all these McLarens, were a tiny bit stronger at. But while he's looking at Trevor Hearn in 5th, Dan Bartosz in 6th, gets just that little bit closer. There's a big ride over one of the yellow sausages. Personally, I prefer brown sausages. But who am I to besmirch Spanish food and culture? I think Stevens is under some pressure here. Bartosz's look in. Stevens covers it off. And then Ben Wheeler has another look at Bartosz. So it's compressing in this group here. And it is a hot potato for 6th place.
Yeah, it sure is. Keep your eyes on it here for a little bit longer in this race, because it is our hottest battle of the race too. And easily potentially add Michael Cullen to the mix, though a couple of moments. Cullen takes that further back, and Verdi was that? No, not sliding. Just look a little bit on edge in the Porsche Cayman GT4. But the way he's firing into the last turn there, David, certainly not leaving anything to spare there.
pressure on for 7th. Bartosz to the inside, Wheels looking around the outside, gets a bit of a squeeze into turn 1. The two McLarens side by side, and now Wheeler tries to hold his ground through 1, hold his ground through 2. Going to use a lot more width of the road to turn into turn 3, try to get his nose underneath. Those two definitely made contact on the way into turn 1. A little bit more contact again on the way into 4. Wheeler's got just a little bit of overlap, but in super deep. Bartosz, is he going to end up in some marbles? Is there some slippery stuff out there? Wheeler looks to have him covered. And does. Puts a real release of pressure for Dan Stevens in 6th place in his battle with Trevor Hearn just up the road as the battle for 7th really cost them all a bit of time. Now Cullen down the inside of Bartosz here and the Porsche of Nathan Verney. With crest on we go. I think Cullen looks a tiny bit weak there, but he's got the highest speed trap speed of anyone, 243 k's an hour. So whatever he's doing, he's shifting, his use of the slipstream, getting him to a bit of speed. It is a V8 in the 570S GT4 before they switched to the wide-angle V6 in the Artura GT4 that has supplanted it, and which you can see racing in Australia. Some of our onboards with our drivers. So these guys have really got the sort of formula style wheels going on. We've seen Dan Stevens has got big sort of GT supercar style wheel.
Yep, so that's Bartosz, so Cullen's feet on the left, Bartosz is on the right to match their current positions on the track as they have started the final lap of race number 1 already. It goes by so fast here, it seems, some of the time anyways, on SimSpeed TV, and Verney just there in the background. Can he make a move or something? The answer so far is not quite, but he's still hunting, still looking for his chance.
So Trevor Hearn's been a big gainer in this race because he qualified 9th. He's raced his way into that top 6. He runs 5th at the moment where he'll bag some points, but also start race 2 on the front row. And as it stands at the moment, Dan Stevens would start race 2 from pole. That's close at the moment, and Wheeler's been super quick this lap and the last, closing them in as well. No one's had anything to match Adrian Duke's pace, and you've seen him reset the fastest lap of the race multiple occasions. 4 seconds clear of Jamie Stovall and Tim Harris. Brady Shepherd dropping back just a tiny bit in 4th. So this is Adrian Duke masterclass stuff at the moment.
Yeah, it really does feel like it is. Yep, around the last 2 turns here will come. And to see the checkered flag from Barney immediately after the final corner. That is 1 race in the books for Adrian Duke. Jamie Stovall, Tim Harris making 3 different cars in the top 3 today. In race 1 at least. The first repeat will be Brody Shepherd there. Then here comes the horde. Trevor Hearn, Dan Stevens will run in the top 6, and as a result, your inverted drivers. So fend off Shepherd, Cullen, Bartosz, and Verney in 10. And last couple of drivers across the line here at the back of the field. Elliot D, Aaron Feldberg, and John Snell still soldiering on despite the damage to his Aston Martin.
Wish he took his team name less literally, though.
It's true. Well, depends if you describe it as taking it all a bit too literally, perhaps, but he'll come across the line here in a second. That will wrap race 1 for us. We can quickly go through the full results here in a second.
Plenty of Spanish fans out to see Ozicar Tin Top Cup there. And that would have been one of the places they've seen a bit of action. I reckon turns 2, 3 gave us a little bit more action than I was expecting with the change of direction through there. Adrian Duke took the win from Jamie Stovall, Tim Harris, Brody Shepherd, Trevor Hearn, and Dan Stevens as the top 6. Take that top 6 and invert them. That's how they're lining up right now for race number 2. Ben Wheeler, Michael Cullen, Dan Bartosz, and Nathan Verney completing the top 10. All drivers finishing, of course. Brent Wassel, Elliot D, Ira Feldberg, and John Snell soldiering on without a pit stop despite the damage that he picked up to his car. So for race 2 right now, That front row is going to be very exciting with Daniel Stevens and Trevor Hearn. And then row 2, Brodie Shepherd and Tim Harris. At BMW seemed to get away pretty well on the race starts as well. And then Jamie Stovall and Adrian Duke. I dare say, from 6th place, he could still do it and make it a clean sweep of wins here, with Benjamin Wheeler in 7th and Michael Cullen in 8th, Dan Bartush 9th and Nathan Verney 10th, Brent Wassel there in 11th. Elliot D's got the new spec BMW in 12th, while Ira Felberg's 13th, and John Snell is going to have a new bumper on the front to start from 14th in this race too.
That he will indeed. So we'll wait to see the drivers make their way around. Take the start of this race once more.
That's Brodie Shepherd doing a lot to aggressively try to get some brake and tyre temperatures, which, hey, is pretty important, clearly, starting with cold tyres and then lots of short, sharp little races. Here's your accelerating, riding the brake. You can see it a bit here in second. Go up the speed, hit the brakes, go up the speed a little bit if you can, but you should reduce that amount of weaving and hold a more constant speed. Now the pace car is in, and our front row is bringing us towards the race start for race 2 of 3. Mercedes on the inside of Daniel Stevens, McLaren on the outside of Trevor Hearn. They'll know where the green flag zone is from race 1 just a couple of minutes ago, and it's green flag now. Michael Cullen won't get caught napping this time. He's got the power down early, looking to the outside. Adrian Duke is right in the middle in a danger zone, being squeezed between Tim Harris and Brodie Shepherd, but he'll survive down towards turn 1.
Oh, is that Duke there already up to 4th place? Well, was 4th for half a second there, so I think it's going to get back to 5th now. As Stevens has lost the race lead to Hearn on the outside of turn 1, which puts him going inside of 2. Checks that box very nicely as we get this one underway, and the field works their way up to the so there's Tim Harris there in the background, ducking and diving. And the old left was Brodie Shepherd around there on the outside of turn 1. Harris loses it on the inside of 5, trying to gather it back up. Whee, hold on to it. Oh no!
That is not held on to at all. You've got more damage, and Ira Felberg's gone into the inside walls. Nathan Verney's gone to the outside wall. Brodie Shepherd's recovered back up into 12th, while Trevor Hearn leads, and Daniel Stevens and Jamie Stovall. Adrian Duke's moved from 6th on the grid to 4th so far. Michael Cullen also gained some spots from drivers like Tim Harris. He's up into 5th with Bartush in 6th and Ben Wheeler in 7th. Here's Duke right now in 4th place.
16 behind the 2 McLarens. That's Michael Cullen. He's able to fend off Dan Bartush, although he's in deep here. End of the back stretch, David. Though that does offer up a defence to the inside of turn 12. Although can cold tyres on Bartush hang on around the outside? He does hang on, but he's not ahead as they make their way to turns 13 and 14 to finish the lap.
Track is not swept between races, so all of the practice, qualifying and race 1 dust, gravel and marbles are offline through all of these corners now in race 2. Move for the lead. Stevens has got a massive amount of speed and slipstream on Trevor Hearn. Absolute door-to-door, leaning on each other's stuff at 235 k's an hour towards the braking zone at turn 1. If he wants to take the race lead, Stevens is going to have to go around the outside. Well, Duke gets sent wide in turn 1 as well, battling there with Jamie Stovall, who's now blocking him out. Michael Cullen's going to try to come through for some positions. All of this for 3rd place, and there's contact.
Oh, that's Michael
More
Cullen.
contact.
Oh, no. Tim Harris, I think, has been tagged, and he has been indeed. And actually, that one's dispatched him to the back of the fence on the outside of 3.
So there was contact on the way into turn 1 between Duke and Michael Cullen, and then there was more contact for them through turn 3 as well, and I wonder if that was a little bit of sort of retaliation. This guy gave me no space here, I'm going to give him no space there, and then it spun around Cullen that then tagged for Tim Harris here. You can see what that BMW had for breakfast from that angle, unfortunately. Trevor Hearn managed to hold the race lead against Daniel Stevens as all of that was going on behind them.
A little chaos, and it's still going for 3rd. Shoot to the inside of Stovall to the end of the backstretch. and he overshoots the corner, and Stovall's going to cross him up for the place back, you'd think, although Duke's not completely gone. He's still got a bit of a hair to the inside, claims the overlap, claims the apex of turn 12. Now Stovall's turn, can he hang on around the outside and challenge? No. Outside line too wide for him there, David. Will have to slot back in and dangerously close to cutting the
slow down.
Track too much. It was too much.
Yeah, you can't do that. You got to keep one of your tyres on it. I wonder if Hearn might have had a slowdown actually when Daniel Stevens was closing in so rapidly down the front straight, because right now is where the pain comes for Stovall. Dan Bartush just behind. Still the furled black flag for Stovall. Still got it. Still got it. He's going to potentially get himself into a lot of trouble. More contact in the squeeze in the braking zone towards turn 1. Brett Wassel ahead of John Snell. Cullen right behind them. Elliot D with the new spec BMW, and Brody Shepherd, who was last on lap 1, is now 10th, looking at 6th.
Oh man, that was a little hairy there. Wassel just almost chopping himself across the nose of Snell. Thankfully, there goes. Stovall has left it way too late. Will finally serve the slowdown, but as a result, actually he does actually immediately clumps onto the back of this packy, but he's gone from therefore being third place to, he's cost himself about 6 seconds, I'd estimate there. Yeah, that was,
you always look to sort out your slowdown penalty before the braking zone for the next corner, because you carry it through one corner, it really just seems to compound until you've almost got to come to a stop sometimes. It's tough right here for Stovall and Shepherd behind Elliot D, who bounced across the curb. Stovall back to racing speed now, but after really costing himself trying to battle for a podium spot and cutting the course. D's missed his braking zone, nearly cleaned up John Snell.
It's getting a little wild, and perhaps not necessarily by design at the back half of the field here. And I think Jamie's now having to be very careful there, because he runs as, oh no, Snell's going to go around and kiss the barrier on the exit of turn 12 here.
That Aston Martin looking incredibly shaky on throttle, exiting some of these corners, really loose in places. Adrian Duke picks up a new fastest lap of the race as he's closing in on the lead battle. Daniel Stevens has had a couple of opportunities to put pressure on Trevor Hearn, who's held strong for the moment. So Adrian Duke was nearly a second faster than last lap, and so he needs them to keep battling with about 3.5 laps to go if he's going to close in. This is that BMW of Elliot D. Brody Shepherd's gone ahead and in 8th, following Jamie Stovall through. Now I'm seeing from Stovall something I think I saw from him in the previous race, which is he's got no valid fastest lap because he's been off track every single lap. Stevens is ahead of Hearn for the race lead and will seal the deal by the looks of it, heading up the hill to Lacaisha. Duke gets closer in 3rd place, but Daniel Stevens puts himself into the lead. There's absolutely time for Duke to catch them. He's almost all over them. There's time for Duke to pass them. But is there time for Duke to pass both of them?
3 laps? I'd say yes. Because it's almost nearly 2 minutes a lap around here. So it's just short, call it 5.5 minutes as well as the 3 laps to sort out where to get some moves done. And really, I think it's just going to come down to sensible executions. And I mean, part of it will be also decisive moves. If Hearn here puts up a stiff fight over second, that might just make the calculus a little different. Just based on the war pace we saw from Adrian Duke in race 1, I think it should be relatively doable.
Dan Stevens from one side of the road all the way to the other. Trevor Hearn and Adrian Duke, if they want the slipstream, have got to follow him. But Duke's got a massive run. He's almost looking to position himself to pass Trevor Hearn, but he can't do it just yet. They start lap 5 of 7 in this race too. Certainly has set a challenge for Adrian Duke to start from 6th. He's moved through quite a few of them, but it gets tough now.
Precious time, laps, kilometres, however you want to measure it from this point, David, are just ticking away as these 3 stay in the order they have been since the start of the lap. We may need to go back here again because Jamie Stovall is apparently... No, he's not as close as my time issues. That's not 1/10. That's probably a bit more, I'd suggest. Michael Cullen. Maybe it is. I'm just somehow misjudging the speed of the GT4 has.
Yeah, certainly pretty close, and we know Stovall has sort of podium pace, but has cost himself pretty significantly in this race so far. He's made a couple of moves since then. He's over Michael Cullen. The podium, though, they're going to hit for the race lead. They've made contact for the race lead. Trevor Hearn's overshot it, moved Daniel Stevens off the road. Adrian Duke's gone through for the race lead, and it's because Trevor Hearn has outbraked himself, cut the track, and hit Daniel Stevens.
Yay! Here I was thinking, I get time to do a few extra things in the background tonight. That was not to be the case, so that's also made Adrian Duke's life a fair bit easier. But replay time then to see the attempted pass, which unfortunately has gone boring. Trevor Hearn.
It's pronounced awry.
Yeah, that's
So Trevor Hearn's under pressure from Adrian Duke here. He's looking in his mirrors. He's not looking at his braking marker. He overshoots his braking marker, cuts the corner, moves the Mercedes out of the way, and Adrian Duke says, well, if you guys are both off and out in the scraggly stuff, I'm going through for the race lead. Thanking you very much. And Trevor Hearn under pressure has misjudged that.
yeah. And it did immediately get reported to, noted on the race, I should say. It'll be looked at after the race with the way Ozicar race control is handled. So they shall continue on. Meanwhile, this little pack seems to be very feisty indeed. Stovall right in behind Michael Cullen. Brody Shepherd is there, but almost biding his time for maybe a couple more corners, and then he springs a shot on David. He's getting close.
I think the pace of that Porsche for Jamie Stovall is very strong, but he's not getting himself into a position where he can easily pass Michael Cullen, so he's trying a few things, like staying tighter through a couple of these corners. About to start the final lap of this race, with just one more to go from Circuit Barcelona, Catalunya. Stovall needs Cullen to make a mistake off the final corners, which is not quite forthcoming, but they're so close through this final corner. Stovall, does the Porsche have the power, the only naturally aspirated car in the field? It's the Porsche with its flat six, so Cullen brings him all the way over to the pit lane side and seems to have just a little bit of pace, a little bit of pull most of the way down the straight. Stovall's going to look to cross him up through one, into two, into three, gets boxed in a little bit behind between the apexes. Now he's giving himself all of the room to try to get his nose under through three, which I don't think Cullen is gonna leave exposed. So this one could be super close all the way to the end as well.
Certainly looks to be Shepherd. Looks for half a moment there under the bridge into turn four, but no dice, and also he's keeping a close eye on the second and third battle, but that's a little more spaced out than the numbers I would have thought suggested. We've also got Elliot D and Nathan Verney here on track towards the back of the pack racing as well. And by my numbers, all of a sudden, no, this group is definitely not spread out. I actually got a bit of an issue, it seems, with my timing and helping keep a visual guide off screen of how the battle's going. A couple of corners left. Is there something for Stovall here at the end of the circuit? Also, Cullen's found a final burst of speed to protect that position here, David.
Brent Wassel with a slow down penalty. That's ahead of these guys, so they might catch him. Oh. Now that's Stovall running wide through the left-hander. Brody Shepherd goes underneath him and up into 7th place. No slow down penalty for Stovall, but there is still one for Wassel. Adrian Duke's going to come out of the final corner onto the final lap to take the checkered flag. Wassel's cleared the slowdown. Daniel Stevens and Trevor Hearn are going to come through in second and third, but Wassel's got no pace. They're passing him before the checkered flag. They've got him. He's off. He's got massive dramas.
Oh, has he picked up a mechanical black at the final turn?
I suspect he's got the wrong way of one of those sausage curbs.
Yeah.
So I think Michael Cullen, Brodie Shepherd, Jamie Stovald all got past Brent Rossell, who then just snuck it to the line ahead of Elliot D and Nathan Verney. Let's try to have a look at Wassell. So that might have been... I thought he had a slowdown penalty before that, but that might be it. No, that'd be it. So he gets a slowdown penalty there, then he hits the wall, and they go through.
Unfortunately, a right meal on the right-hand side of the car there in between the final two turns. So that'll set him back to, pardon me, what is that there? 8th place.
I think he might have also had a slowdown penalty before the penultimate corner.
Yes, he certainly did. You're 100% right on that one there. I think with the crash, he will have cleared that one in time.
Yeah, so then made a real meal of the final lap. Fortunately, just the last car to come around to take the checkered flag will be Ben Wheeler. He's just done so now.
Yes, Ira's also finished the race as well, so that should do us here for race 2.
Yeah, race 2 done, and gee, it was an exciting one with that inverted top 6. But it wasn't enough to stop Adrian Duke going through, taking another race win to make it 2 from 2 so far, with one more to come. Dan Stevens and Trevor Hearn tripping up over each other gave Adrian Duke the perfect opportunity to bypass the both of them and go to back-to-back race wins. Dan Bartush finished in 4th, with Michael Cullen in 5th, holding off Brodie Shepherd. Jamie Stovald dropping back from that group with a little mistake that he had, but all of them passing Brent Rossell, who had a slowdown penalty and some damage on the final lap. Elliot D in 9th with Nathan Verney in 10th. And then it was Tim Harris, Naira Felberg, the last 2 cars on the lead lap. Ben Wheeler 1 lap down last to take the checkered flag. And John Snell not having a fun time with his Aston Martin GT4. Seems to be really struggling for stability and rear end grip with that car coming through some of the medium speed corners and on corner exit. We will probably take a quick break here on SimSpeed TV and come back with some championship points in the final race of Ozicar Tin Top Cup from Barcelona.
That we will, indeed.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
And we're back there after that quick break here on SimSpeed TV. 4th round of your coverage of the Ozicar Tin Top Cup from the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya here in Spain continues in just a couple of moments' time. Drivers are in a brief warm-up here, and well, I'm in the midst of just trying to quickly throw together those championship standings for us all to get a look at things post round 3 2 weeks ago, and hoping we'll get there in just a second. It's just that it's all bit manual, which makes things a little bit fun to process and punch in the numbers. Daniel Yeaman here, be joining David Haynes, who returns right now to the comms box by the sound of things as well. And it's been the Adrian Duke show today so far. David out on track, and that is reflected in the standings, but I'll get those to you as soon as I can. Oh, he was here the whole time, just apparently didn't cue him up well enough.
Yeah, so we've had 2 races, one more to come from Barcelona for Ozicar Tin Top Cup. What you will notice is no invert into race 3, just from race 1 into race 2. That's good news for Adrian Duke. So he'll get to start from pole position again in race number 3. And Daniel Stevens and Trevor Hearn, 2nd and 3rd on the grid after having a spicy race 2 together. And then Dan Bartush joins them on the 2nd row. The weather not changing too drastically race to race to race at the moment.
No, it doesn't appear to be.
I say that, but there's some rain coming for race 3. So race 1 and 2 both very, very hot, but oh no, it's about to rain.
There it is.
I can see it on the radar.
Right. Well, I'll get that up for us as well in just a second. I'm going to get these points done literally right as they go to the grid for race 3 here. So I'll get that sorted for us here, folks. And then
so I keep going on about the McLaren's such a great car on cold tyres that the race starts, but which car looks the strongest, which car's the most drivable, the most raceable in wet conditions? Usually an entirely different situation. Perhaps some of the mid-engine cars become more challenging in the wet, and the front-engine cars could come to the fore. Is it BMW masterclass in the wet? Will the Aston Martin suddenly be the most drivable thing? Does it change the balance at all in the wet conditions? The warm-up about to move over into the race.
Oh, I've just
and as
seen
it does,
that
is
shift
coming down.
Oh man, the feed is going to be quite interesting. So you see this lovely pre-race grid. Let me just quickly show you what it looks like in session right now. It's gone to this. So I'll get you the grid up here in a second. We might be doing this all a bit backwards here, David, as drivers hit the grid for race 3, and then I'll get you the championship points as they roll around on the formation.
So it was beautiful, sunny Spanish skies just half an hour ago, and now the rain in Spain falls mainly on race 3 with Adrian Duke and Dan Stevens on the front row, Trevor Hearn and Dan Bartush in 2nd. Then in the next row, it's Michael Cullen and Brodie Shepherd for row 3. Jamie Stovall and Brent Wassell on row 4. Row 5 is Elliot D and Nathan Verney. Tim Harris qualified 2nd in the qualifying session, has to start out of 11th. Ira Feldberg's out of 12th. Ben Wheeler and John Snell 13th and 14th. I think we might have actually lost John Snell. He might be out of this. Now, as they roll on the formation lap, I'm trying to get a look of what tyres is everyone on. I feel like you would be a damn fool to be on anything other than the wet tyre right now, surely. It's not like making a pit stop in the middle of the race. You look at the conditions, you put the wet tyres on, you put your car on the grid. No loss for picking wet tyres, probably a lot of loss for picking slicks.
Yes, you'd be surely crazy to do it here. In fact, well, let's do this. And apparently...
It can't be right.
Hang on, what's the weather information? It is lightly wet. Do we have people with death wishes? I guess we're about to find out.
Surely the data... wait till they all cross the green flag, complete a lap, and maybe the data updates. We'll see as to who's got what tyres on. Wet tyres look like the go, because it is raining. It will rain for the whole of this race, and the track looks pretty wet. The drivers are going to see the green flag in 1 second. Adrian Duke accelerates us up to speed. And by the time we work our way through turn 1 and turn 2, I think the questions will answer themselves as to who's got grip, who's got confidence, but also, for a race start like this, who's got visibility. So Adrian Duke is the middle of the road as they try to pick a braking zone in the wet into turn 1. Trevor Hearn has a massive wiggle. Adrian Duke sails on by. Dan Stevens stays on the road. Dan Stevens takes his front-engined Mercedes to the race lead. My graphic says he's got wet tyres. It says Adrian Duke's got slicks, and you know what? That's what it looks like. I think the McLaren of Duke and Hearn have got slick tyres. They didn't stop, they didn't turn, and Dan Stevens leads the way. Jamie Stovall into 2nd. I think you've got to believe that. I think these guys are on slicks.
Yeah, it's starting to look like that with the way they're quickly sort of fanning.
The drivers that say they've got wet tyres are moving up, and the drivers who say they've got slicks are spinning off and going back. The tyre choice was everything for this race, and it's moved Dan Stevens into the race lead. Jamie Stovall's 5 positions into second place in the Porsche. Dan Bartusch is the best McLaren at the moment in third, and Elliot D, he's up into 4th place. He will be absolutely wrapped with his selection. The guys on slick tyres are not coping. They are not managing. Ben Wheeler is off the road. Adrian Duke does not look like he is going to be taking a 3rd win because he's backwards for the 3rd time on the opening lap.
Oh, even there, like these. Oh, Nathan Verney in the runs wide, but Duke trying to recover the car. Is in the gravel again there in the background of shot. Well, it's a blood. Oh, look at this Verney here, Dave. Just trying to get onto the backstretch. He's just having to tip it in or tow it in. So
just pickle the throttle and just absolutely hope. When he got a break, surely you're braking too late here already. He's braking 300 metres before the corner. He's going to tip it in and wash out and nearly touch the grass. Don't drop down to first gear. Hold that thing in second, Nathan. Surely these guys are coming around to the pit entry and we're going to see some pit. Tim Harris has made the wrong tyre choice. So the only other BMW, Elliot D, has sailed past him. As this is dramatic stuff. How have half of them not picked wet tyres? Insanity. Absolute insanity.
And also the fact that none of them seem to... Oh, and Harris is just going to stick it out. I get it's a 7-lap sprint, and I guess, unless there's something
well, compare that.
The rain band being super thin. I mean, the rain band is a super thin band. It's possibly almost gone, but the amount of water on circuit has increased, according to my data, since the session started.
You know, the difference is insanity. Nathan Verney, Adrian Duke pitting in. A few guys on slick tyres have stayed out, but there's like a 20-second a lap difference right now. It's not worth it. So Dan Stevens leads the race. Jamie Stovall and Dan Bartusch together here. This is your top 3, skating away from the rest of them. Elliot D, Ira Felberg and Michael Cullen, the only other drivers on wet tyres. So those 6 cars that have started on wet tyres have risen rapidly to the top. Gee, turn 1 was fun on that opening lap. My oh my, was it so immediately obvious who had the right tyre and who was in way over their depth.
And that's even with a fairly modest amount of water on the circuit.
Stovall's got a great run here. He's found a whole heap of grip. So Daniel Stevens will protect the inside. Could be the grippy place to brake, but could be the slippery part to turn in. So if Stovall looks around the outside here, he might find a bit of grip. He is looking around the outside. There is some grip to be had there, and he's all over Dan Stevens. Now he's going to look to go around the outside of the next corner. Yeah, this is karting lines. What was slippery in race 2 because of debris and tyre rubber is now so grippy, and the correct line in race 3. Side by side through the penultimate corner. Got to be so, pardon me, careful if you are all the way to the inside line there, because it looks pretty slick on the race line. On the front straight we go. Stovall in the slipstream, but also in the spray. Seems to be much quicker in a straight line than the Mercedes in these conditions.
He's come unstuck, it seems, on his own in the background.
Dan Stevens and Jamie Stovall for the race lead. Stovall had another great opportunity. Stevens gave him plenty of space, but Stovall wasn't in the grippy part of the racetrack, and that's the challenge of trying to make a pass in these conditions. Is there's a grippy part of the road and there's a slippery part of the road, and you need to somehow force your opponent onto the slipperier bit of the road so you can take the grip, get around. Is that in too hot? It is in too hot for Dan Stevens. He touches the grass. He goes back to third as Stovall takes the lead and Dan Bartusch follows through into second. Bartusch has just set the fastest lap of the race, so he's finding his webbed feet in these conditions right now as well.
All of them through turn 5 have got nothing. It doesn't help, there's all this gravel still on the circuit from all of the misadventures, you could say, the drivers who tried to stick it out on slicks. And there's a lot of confidence there for the ETS Motorsport McLaren here. I have to say, it'd be fascinating. Is this inherent to this combination of preparation and car combination, or is this just something about being second and watching the leader sort of go around? and just follow the leader and learn from what they do. Within the couple of meters, you'd get a chance to do it. In as Brent Wassels apparently hit the pit lane, and according to my data, he's towed. So possibly issues out.
He stayed out on the slicks, so he's probably experienced some misadventure. It will be interesting to see. Nathan Verney is one of the drivers that started on slicks and has changed to wets and is so rapidly catching Trevor Hearn, who stayed on the slicks, that I think in about a lap you're going to see everyone who realised they'd made a mistake and changed their mind begin to catch those that have sort of doubled down on potentially a poor decision. Last lap for Hearn was a 2:44. My goodness, which is like 37 seconds off the pace of the race leader.
And on last lap, the numbers don't look great for Nathan Verney because that is his in-lap.
Yes, because that includes the pit stop for Nathan Verney. Yeah, so that comparison doesn't make sense yet. But look at this. I mean, it's just... Guy is like riding a bicycle right now because there's no speed. We're back to Sector 1, 4.5 seconds. Sector 2 could be 10 seconds, surely faster for Nathan Verney. Because Trevor Hearn's halfway down the straight and it looks like he can't use more than a quarter throttle.
And there they are now
Verney in the background. Has Verney gone over where's the sector loop?
Well, there you go. Hearn's just crossed, I think, coming into the hairpin here.
Okay.
So, there you go.
Oh, 7 seconds. Yeah, I mean, he's going to get him by the end of this lap. If he's doing 7 seconds per sector, he's going to get Trevor Hearn by the end of this lap. Oh no, Hearn's on the slippery stuff. He's off the racetrack. He's on the painted concrete. He's around on the racing line. Meanwhile, Adrian Duke on his wet tyres has passed Nathan Verney on his wet tyres, as both of them pass Bambi on ice.
Yeah, 12 seconds in 2 sectors, and that's unfortunately going to be a whole lot worse, even here in the last sector. For Trevor Hearn. And
remember, if you make a mistake, never admit it. Just double down.
Yeah, you cross your fingers and hope that maybe the track miraculously dries out in time. And actually, no, Trevor Hearn has actually bailed on that strategy. I think yes, he has hit the pit lane. So I think we'll just leave that alone now. I think when it comes to the lap deltas and such.
Don't kick a man while he's down at this point. It's no longer sporting, is it? Jamie Stovall's got a 1.2 second lead, so he's found his pace again after Bartusz had been closing in. Stevens there. No, too much of the curb for Dan Bartusz off the final corner. Daniel Stevens in a second, Bartusz back to third. It's all coming up roses for Jamie Stovall. There are 3 more laps to go, and at the pace they're going, they are going to get those 3 laps in. Okay. I was just starting to see the time certain clock loom large in these slow conditions.
They'll just get there by virtue of... Well, actually, the thing is, because 7 laps and 15 minutes just gives the extra minute to allow for these lap times to be slightly over.
Yeah, they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine.
2 minutes.
So the most positions gained in this race at the moment is Ira Felberg, who started basically back of the grid, but started on the wet tyres. There's a few of these guys that did that. It would be very interesting to watch their lap 1 all over again, because 6, 7, 8 cars all sort of went off the road in front of Ira Felberg, and he had the tyres that actually could clear the water, actually could make contact with the pavement, and actually could give him some grip, confidence and performance, and he jumped up to 5th at the moment. And then also gained a spot, I think, when Elliot D had that moment out the final corner as well. So the mistakes are super punishing in these conditions, and those who've avoided them have therefore made incredible advantages. Adrian Duke's just passed Ben Wheeler, as Wheeler's one of the drivers who stayed out on the slicks, and therefore going to get absolutely eaten up now that Duke goes past him, and Nathan Verney and Brodie Shepherd next as well. So how quickly does Verney get Wheeler?
Well, I feel that's a bit of a... Here at turn 1, perhaps? Because, look how early. Look how early for Brodie Shepherd. I mean, Verney's far enough back that he can't get there. Even there, just... Yep, and Apex is mine. Thank you very much. I'll take that now.
Yeah, whichever way you go, I've got oodles more grip to just sail past, sail on, and Yeah. Buenos dias, amigo. See you later.
So you wanted a view of somebody who saw lap 1. Let's do that here with Ira Felberg. As you said, oh, there's Shepherd there has a big old moment. Just go on board here. What Ira sees.
So he goes to brake for turn 1, and he's got the correct tyres to be able to brake for turn 1. A lot of other drivers don't. They're in the gravel over there. They're off the road there. And so he's got a couple of cars to his right. D's on the wet tyres, so he's following Elliot D. There goes.
Simply spins. Shepherd hurt. And then Russell's going to go.
I think he's passed now once Adrian Duke's off the road there, I think he's passed everyone who was on slicks.
Yes, that I think lines up with his P5 position that he's now held the entire race since. He's back with Benjamin Wheeler on live. He's being lapped by the drivers who picked the wets to start the race.
On lap 6, he's being lapped. So his delta to the cars on wet tyres is greater than the pace delta between the winner of the Bathurst 6 Hour and the Toyota Camry.
That's pretty rough. Yeah, and you can see he's giving up anywhere from 20 to 30 seconds a lap. So, yeah, no wonder he's been lapped from 6.
The grass has more grip than the road does. He's using it like a speedway berm. Dead set. The grass has got more grip than the wet pavement. He's using the grass as a speedway berm. Yeah.
It's the most agonising lap of Barcelona Catalunya I think I'll ever see on iRacing for the foreseeable future, David. And
good news is he's a lap down, so he's only got to do one more lap of this. Jamie Stovall started the final lap of the final race here for Ozicar Tin Top Cup at Barcelona. Started this race wet tyres on his Porsche, and now he's 5 seconds clear of Stevens and Bartush. Michael Cullen 4th. Quiet achiever, I'd say. Just ahead of Ira Felberg 5th. Elliot D, by virtue of not needing to make a pit stop, even with the errors that he's had, he's been on the right tyre, so he's still running 6th with a comfortable gap. How comfortable depends, but to Adrian Duke, who has passed his way up to 7th after being almost last, and then Nathan Verney in 8th as well. So everyone who started on slicks then pitted for wets. That's adventurous.
Don't touch the curbs, Brody.
Is ahead of everyone who stayed on slicks. So those that made a mistake but then aimed to correct it are ahead of those who've doubled down and stayed with it, like Tim Harris and Ben Wheeler.
Yeah. And now actually a good question, is Tim Harris going to be able to stay on the leader? Because there's your race leader in the background of shot on wet tyres. Can Harris limp his Pulsar tuning and Tuner Toyota BMW home in time? I get the feeling he might just be willing to wait as the flag and go, yeah, look, I'm not catching anyone in front of me. I'll also take the one lap down finish at this point, perhaps.
Jamie Stovall came from 7th on the grid in this race, but he picked the right tyres. He was in the top 3 by the end of the first lap. And now he's going to put Tim Harris a lap down. He's put Ben Wheeler a lap down. He's put Trevor Hearn, Brent Wassell and John Snell a lap down. And Porsche and Jamie Stovall has been the combination to have at a wet Barcelona on the wet weather tyres to take race 3 and deny Adrian Duke a clean sweep at Barcelona. Jamie Stovall's the winner of race 3 ahead of Dan Stevens and Dan Bartush.
And then it's almost very lengthy wait. Michael Cullen, Ira Felberg ran at the top 5. Despite being on wet tyres too, they end up over 20 seconds off Jamie Stovall up front. And from here it is now just sort of the waiting game as everyone comes through one by one. David.
Ben Wheeler just crossed the line a lap down his slick tyres. His Elliot D in 6th. I mean, without that spin, he'd perhaps be challenging Ira Felberg for 5th in this race. So he looked at the weather, made exactly the right call. And now he's just splashing through the puddles. And Adrian Duke, well, he could have had 3 from 3 if he'd looked at the weather radar. Packed his umbrella, packed a change of socks.
I'm very curious to see what the drivers say about this third and final race. Now, as I understand it, having briefly read some of the stuff in preparation for tonight, that the drivers were aware of how the weather was going to be recorded, and this wasn't a complete surprise to have the conditions be this way, but nevertheless it has called out nearly half the grid.
It's an issue of timing, isn't it? Because the rain sort of started right at the end of the warm-up. There's a 5-minute jump from warm-up to the race. It wasn't even a 10-minute jump. So it had been raining on the track before the start of the race, whereas if the band of rain that we had came halfway through the race, I think slick tyres would have been the way to go, but it started wet and was raining on the formation lap and just never dried the way that some were hoping for. Ben Wheeler and Brody Shepherd there, one of the last drivers to finish. Brody Shepherd, the last driver to finish on the lead lap. Jamie Stovall did it perfectly. He wins from Stevens and Bartusch, then Michael Cullen, Ira Felberg, Elliot D. The 6 drivers that started on wet tyres finish in the top 6. Well, Adrian Duke, Nathan Verney and Brody Shepherd started on slicks and then moved to wets in a pit stop at the end of the first lap. Tim Harris and Ben Wheeler stayed on their slicks. Trevor Hearn and Brent Wassel stayed on slicks for 3 laps before changing to wets at the halfway point, and therefore finished 12th and 13th. And John Snell, it's a shame that after the 2 spins in the dry weather races, we didn't see him stick around for the wet weather race to see if maybe the Aston Martin could be more competitive in those conditions, just like the Porsche looked a little more competitive in Jamie Stovall's hands in the wet conditions.
Yes, indeed. And that's going to round out the race results from Barcelona here tonight. For what it's worth, I actually have I finished the Champions League right as I was going to the grid and rolling to the start finish, but at that point we'd run out of time to do them. But since I've done them, and I don't want my work to go to waste per se, I'll throw them up on screen, even though this is now a full round behind the scheme of things. And it's looking pretty close at the back half of the top 10, Dave, and even at the top half too, I guess, for Adrian Duke. He's only 4 points clear, but he will have extended that margin here tonight with 2 wins and finishing ahead of Brody Shepherd in race 3, 7th versus 9th.
Yeah, he finished ahead of Brody Shepherd in every race, finished ahead of Tim Harris in every race, so extending that. Jamie Stovall would have taken just a little bit of margin out of him in race 3 there, but then Stovall finished 7th in race 2. So damage minimization there, I think, for Adrian Duke, where you take the win in 2/3 of the races and then finish mid-pack in race 3. He probably won't lose any ground to those around him on that one. We can chat with a couple of our drivers and ask them if they've had a chance to dry their socks.
Yep, well, top 3 from race 3 are in the box, so I guess we'll start with, we're going third through first. Let's grab Dan Bartusch and go third through first, as I'll bring him here in to chat with us. I believe it's actually our first time speaking with Dan this season, but congratulations on a 3rd place here today to wrap up at Barcelona, and decent results all round in 2 and 3, I should say, as well here, Dan. So how was it like there, having to negotiate the start of that race on wets after 2 dry races?
Yeah, it was good. It caught me a bit by surprise, so I had to jump back into pits and couldn't change the setup, didn't have time, so just chucked a bit more wing on and put the wets on and hope for the best. But every league race I've had in the last week's been wet, so I had a little bit of experience in the rain this week, which has been good.
And yeah, like close racing tonight as well earlier on in the dry. Ended up a little bit further back in those opening 2 races, but scrapped pretty hard to get the spots you got. And yeah, how was the McLaren feeling around Barcelona tonight, given it's been strong most tracks this season, it seems?
Yeah, good. I'm still getting to grips with this GT4 car, and Barcelona is way down the bottom of my list of favourite tracks. So didn't have the pace in the dry, so I was actually pretty happy to see the sprinkles on the windscreen when we pulled out for that third one, and especially when I saw half the field was on slicks.
Yeah, we couldn't quite make. We were a little unsure of what we were seeing ourselves, but as it turned out, that was what it was going to be for everyone, and it worked out very nicely for you indeed. And going to be another 2 weeks before we go racing here once again, but we are into the final 2 rounds of the season as well. And we depart Spain for Lebanon in France next week. And what do we think that combination is going to be like for the GT4 cars? Perhaps will that be something we'll be finding out in the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, I have to put a bit of work into that one. That's a very technical little track, very lot of blind corners on it, and if it rains there, it will be slippery. So, yeah, we'll have to work on that one. But yeah, looking forward to it. Really loving this series so far.
Indeed, the heavens may open indeed at a touch of a button. Some might even have said there. I guess you'll have to find out, and I guess I'll be finding out possibly on the periphery as well. Well, floors are yours, Dan. Anyone you want to shout out, give thanks to for your third place and your results here tonight.
Yeah, mate, thank you to ETS Motorsports, Eastern Tour Services, Big Matt's Computer Services, and the boys at Proline, and of course Ozicar for putting it on, and you guys at SimSpeed for what is always a fantastic broadcast.
Thank you very much. So Dan Bartush grabbing third place here in the wet at Barcelona for the end of round number 4 tonight, and then jump forward a spot here, David, to the man who came home in second place. I'll grab Dan Stevens for you, and you've already grabbed him for me, and I'll hand over to you.
Hello.
Hey Dan, so exciting couple of races there. Race 2, bit of drama. Race 3, all about picking the right tyres.
Yeah, it was, I just sat in the pits the whole time during warm-up and just to watch the radar. Because I did a test session earlier on, and the rain was meant to come like probably at the end, like 5 minutes towards the end of the race. So I thought, I just keep an eye on it. And then, chose the wet tyres when I saw it was raining, and I looked to my right and I saw that 80 was on dries. I thought, oh, okay, here we go. Turn 1, I'm just going to take it easy and let them disappear. And then I just turned right and away we went.
Yeah, real fork in the road stuff for who was on wet tyres, who was on dry tyres. Does it surprise you how many people saw that amount of rain and decided that that it wouldn't be that slippery?
Yeah, I was actually quite surprised. It was pretty much half the field was on dry tyres. I thought it's a wrong move. I've been there, done that, and I made the wrong decision.
And obviously I've read what you've written, but you had a chance of taking the win in race 2 there, and it's sort of 2 gazelles trip each other up and the lion gets a big dinner.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
What did you make of that though? What was your thoughts in the dry weather races as well?
What, all 3 races or just that race?
I mean that race. What did you make of the inverted grid race? For a short race like that, you started on pole, gave you a real good opportunity.
Oh mate, I love the inverted races. Like we should have more of them. Like even like the 4 grid inverts are good fun. It gives everybody a chance. You normally run at the back of the pack or mid pack. It gives them a chance to run at the front. Yeah, they still might not win because the cream always goes to the top, but it gives the guys who run at the back normally a chance to run at the front. And I'm all for it. I love it.
Because otherwise, across 3 races, you might not ever see Adrian Duke, but in this time, he saw you.
Yeah, he certainly did. Yeah, saw him for a little bit and he disappeared.
Well, fantastic. From 6th to 2nd to 2nd, and flying the flag for the 3-pointed star as well.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Go chatting with Dan Stevens, and we can move to the winner from race 3, Dan.
That we can indeed, and after unfortunately a rough time out last race, Jamie Stovall, with technical problems preventing you from even really getting onto the grid, you've rebounded quite nicely here. 2nd place in race 1, 7th in race 2, perhaps a little bit stuck in the field there, but picking the right tyres and charging home to a race win to round off tonight here at Barcelona. Congrats.
Yeah, I definitely got very lucky in the feature, just picking the right tyre. it was just like a last minute switch, and whatever default setup I'm using must have a pretty big wing, or a lot of downforce, because it seemed a lot more stable in the wet by the looks compared to everyone else, but in the dry, like in Heat 1 and Heat 2, it was super slow. Heat 2 wasn't very good. I took out Brody, so I'm very sorry to him. I can't seem to get these cars stopped very well.
Well, you usually say that the race set in the dry wasn't amazing, because you did end up keeping it up towards the front in qualifying. Now, obviously, one-shot qualifying, how much does only having one lap, despite all that time in the qualifying session, sort of change things, you think, with perhaps, say, the group of guys here in the Ozicar series?
I actually kind of like it. You've got to be a bit safer on your lap, unless you're 100% confident that you can, go 100% out the whole time, because one off track and then you're starting at the back, which is sort of, I usually, don't push 100% in quali anyway, so that sort of suits me. But you also only get one lap to prep the car and prep the tyres, which I have no idea how to do that, so...
Well, and then as you said there, so at the start of race 3, then coming forward back to the end of tonight, you said you had to switch the tyres there before you committed to the formation lap. And I guess, was it hairy for you there, having to sort of like hit your braking mark without being worried about being run up the backside, perhaps by drivers on slick tyres who got it wrong there on the start, and having to then be in a position where you could capitalise?
I think it was sort of a bit of a blessing that I didn't do too well in race 2, because I got to start in 7th in the feature, which meant that I could sort of just sit behind the front people and see what they do. And luckily for me, they sort of just went straight at turn 1. But yeah, it's nice to not be at the front. I also got to sit behind everyone else and sort of watch their lines. So. Yeah, racing in the wet's very interesting. You're sort of pushing as hard as you can while also trying to push other people to make mistakes. But yeah, it's that's probably one of the more fun wet races I've done.
Well, we'll have to see if we get any more rain in the final 2 rounds of the season, as we're coming into the back half of the season to finish things up pretty shortly as well. It's Lettelon next time out over in France. What do we think that's going to be like in these GT4 cars? A shorter, more technical track, for sure, as a sort of a general rule of thumb.
I don't think I've ever driven that track before, but if it's a tight and technical track, these things, especially the Porsche, seem like they're sort of boats to drive, so it's probably going to be a lot of understeering, and I'm sure Adrian will find the quickest way around the track, as he usually does. So I guess we'll find out next week, as long as my internet decides it wants to stay stable again.
Well, fingers crossed indeed for you there, Jamie. Floors all yours. Who do you want to thank for helping you get it done tonight?
As usual, thank you to everyone at Synergy Sim Racing. Thanks to Ira and everyone at Ozicar and all the competitors. It's a lot of fun turning up every 2 weeks and racing against the same people. And for you guys for putting on such an awesome broadcast, which I always watch the next day.
Well, thank you very much. Jamie Stovall winning race 3 here tonight, and he might even be in with a fair shot at calling a round win there as well with Adrian Duke, finishing 7th race 3 there, David. But that's going to do us for coverage from Barcelona tonight. Unfortunately, I don't have any footage of where we're going, but I can, at least very much, we can tell everyone where we're going next time out. We actually depart Spain, despite the Spanish theme of this season, and it will be Circuit de Lettelon that hosts the 5th round of this Ozicar Tin Top Cup next time out.
Yeah, it'll be exciting, and it was unpredictable in 2 of the 3 races today from Barcelona, so we hope you'll join us again for Ozicar Tin Top Cup Round 5. David Haynes with Dan Yeaman, who's also on the production for us today, and they turned it on, so hopefully they'll turn it on again in 2 weeks' time, and we will see you there.
Racing isn't easy, but but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.